fair. And there's no way they don't know that they're not going to run their league into the ground. Are they just counting on Caitlin Clark being able to save it? If you lose one game, it's going to be a PR disaster. One game, if you lose a preseason game, it's going to be a disaster. Now you see,
Recent developments suggest genuine possibility of work stoppage materializing within women's professional basketball. Fresh statements from Breanna Stewart and Sophie Cunningham indicate escalating tensions, though questions persist regarding whether athletes genuinely comprehend the optics surrounding their negotiating posture. Cunningham particularly appears intelligent enough to recognize certain rhetoric contradicts underlying realities, specifically claims that ownership proposals constitute unfair treatment, or failure to acknowledge potential organizational damage from confrontational approaches. Strategic calculations seemingly revolve around Caitlin Clark's drawing power, providing insurance against catastrophic outcomes. However, canceling even preseason contests would trigger severe publicity consequences. Any missed regular season game would constitute unprecedented disaster. Cunningham's recent comments characterize negotiations as stagnant.
we got two sets of videos here. Let me play Sophie.
We had a big old meeting this week.
And?
Negotiations are in process.
To get things moving?
In hopes of getting it moving, because it has not been moving at all. Both sides are kind of getting, frustrated, but I know us players are holding our ground, so it should be interesting. At the end of the day, depending on where these negotiations go, if you give these players what they want, you're going to get all the best players. Therefore, you're going to win. Therefore, your ticket sales are going to be up. Everything's going to be up.
But that's...
Major meetings occurred this week attempting to generate momentum where none currently exists. Both parties express mounting frustration, though players emphasize maintaining firm positions. The core argument presented suggests adequate compensation guarantees roster quality, which drives attendance and revenue generation. Negotiations ostensibly seek middle ground between competing demands. She characterized the situation as embarrassing, suggesting the sport has become ridicule subject. However, counterarguments note this predicament stems from unprecedented growth rather than dysfunction. The league's explosive 3-year trajectory created novel circumstances, lacking precedent, generating confusion among stakeholders navigating uncharted territory.
It's what these negotiations are, is finding where that middle is. Yeah.
It sucks because it's how our negotiation, all that, how that's going, it's we're the laughing stock of sports right now.
I don't think that that's true, though, because you guys are in this point because things are so different than they have been. The reason no one knows what the fuck to do is because the WNBA the last 3 years has, been on a whole new level than it ever was, so people are confused.
Anytime you're in a position of leadership, yes, but just in a position to...
Additional criticism targets leadership communication strategies. Despite negotiating impasses, commissioner visibility could reinforce product confidence through social media engagement and public endorsements. Current silence creates perception vacuum, suggesting organizational indifference rather than strategic positioning. The reality indicates ownership exhaustion with player demands. Recent disclosures revealed maximum salaried athletes could earn $2.4 million within 5 years contingent on achieving specific growth benchmarks, while average salaries might reach $1 million annually under similar conditions. These projections assume hitting predetermined performance metrics.
Influence and empower other people. For some reason, our league doesn't do that. Everyone wants to be the star. Our commissioner right now, even though we're not agreeing on negotiations or barely even talking at all, she could still go on other social media platforms and be hey, I believe in our product. I love our product, because that gives off a different feel than just not saying anything and acting like we don't exist.
No, it's because the WNBA owners and NBA owners are fed up with you guys.
Stewart addressed strike preparedness explicitly. Players confront their inaugural revenue-sharing arrangement, departing from previous hard salary cap structures featuring two $220,000 maximum contracts with remaining compensation distributed downward. Current proposals substantially expand earning potential, generating optimism while simultaneously fueling skepticism. Players express concern about historical patterns where collective bargaining agreements disadvantaged athletes. Awareness of current market valuations, franchise assessments, expansion fees, underlying capital flows, reinforces conviction that compensation must reflect organizational worth. Athletes emphasize their indispensable role generating this value.
They're fed up. I did a video yesterday evening where we found out that if certain growth markers are hit, the max players are staring at $2.4 million in 5 years. And that the average player would be staring at $1 million a year 5 years from now if these growth markers are hit. Metrics.
One notable absence from demands, marijuana policy modifications apparently remain desired despite organizational reservations. Direct questioning about playing season forfeit elicited confirmation that strike authorization voting passed, granting formal walkout capacity backed by membership majority. Personal reluctance exists, given court time's importance for fans, communities, and competitive development. However, contract structure disparities between women's and men's leagues create pressure. Critical distinction emerges. Perhaps 10 to 15 elite players possess financial cushion surviving extended work stoppage, whereas remaining roster members cannot endure prolonged income interruption. Player Association reportedly provides support, resources, and necessities, but willingness to sacrifice season exists if demands go unmet, despite strong preference avoiding this outcome.
It's crazy. It's going to get crazier. Breanna Stewart is going to talk about the fact that they are prepared to strike if they have to. I mean,
for me, it's like this is the first time we're in a revenue shared model. So before it was like we had like a hard cap and we had a structure and you could have 220 max and everything else kind of trickled down. Now we're gonna like really.
This admission inadvertently confirmed internal fracturing. ESPN previously reported divisions within union leadership itself. Stewart's comments verify that beyond top-tier talent, league majority lacks strike sustainability, yet commitment remains. Absent acceptable terms, games will not occur. Such action would generate massive publicity catastrophe. Public relations challenges already exist currently.
Blow that out of the water, which is incredible. But I know, like, personally as WNBA players, it's like, well, we've signed however many CBA deals before, and we just don't want to get gypped. We don't want to feel like we're signing something and we're actually getting like screwed, because now we know how much you need us. We see the valuations between all the teams and all the things and the expansion fees, and it's like, no, there's a lot of money behind this, so like, don't forget to pay us too.
Are you sure you don't want a policy against weed? Are you sure about that?
Ownership's strategic information leaks regarding proposal specifics and performance metrics reflect understanding that substantial fan segments favor management positions. Disclosure of significant salary increases and additional benefits, including housing provisions for certain players, generates mixed public response. 10-day contract holders receiving temporary accommodation seems reasonable. However, players drawing regular salaries averaging $500,000 annually, potentially escalating toward million-dollar averages, requesting employer-funded housing strains relatability. Average fans struggle connecting with such demands, particularly given salary trajectories. Fan support erosion continues presently.
So it's just really a back-and-forth battle.
Would you say y'all are prepared not to play this season? I know you want to, but would you say you're prepared not to play?
We've approved the strike authorization vote, which means that we're able to formally lock out whenever we want because we have majority of the players' votes behind us. I think that for me personally, like the closer it gets to WNBA season, we're prepared to do it, to not play. But
strike threats exacerbate this deterioration. Anticipated scenario involves subset of players eventually demanding play resumption, creating enormous pressure on negotiating committee to accept available terms and return to competition. Extended delays worsen perception problems for an organization already struggling with public image. The league's identity centers on two elements: Caitlin Clark as dominant star and primary revenue engine, and NBA financial subsidy maintaining operational viability despite perpetual unprofitability. These twin realities define public consciousness. Consequently, when fans observe near tenfold salary increases, strike rhetoric generates confusion and frustration.
Want to get back on the floor. Like, I'm not saying Coulson doesn't want to get back on the floor. She has no urgency. The older players have no urgency. The younger players do. That seems to be what's happening. is that the younger players have a much more urgency in getting something done, because at the end of the day, they have a lot more at stake. They have a lot more at stake. Like, they're guaranteed to become, they're already millionaires, but they're guaranteed to become multi-millionaires in their careers. But this is
Each statement about preparedness for whatever necessary actions further damages player positioning. Repeated messaging about potential work stoppage alienates audiences incrementally. Longtime devoted followers represent minority segment. Newer audiences drawn by recent growth outnumber legacy supporters approximately 3-1. These emerging fans are generalized sports consumers whose attention shifts easily toward alternative entertainment. Alienating this demographic risks revenue collapse since their engagement remains conditional rather than tribal.
Millionaires in their careers. But this is a big post. So everybody, by the way, you've got the Unrivaled players taking WNBA out of their bios. You've got all these players. You've got plenty of players on social media refusing to say that they even want to play. Like, some players are refusing to even say, they wouldn't say the words, "we want to play." They will make sure as hell that that's a sentence that does not come out of their mouth. Whereas Caitlin Clark, her signing autographs, the fever, and this is why her signing autographs.
Player statements fail recognizing this dynamic. Each confrontational comment degrades public sympathy rather than building solidarity. The disconnect between athlete perspective and consumer sentiment widens with every negotiating update, suggesting intransigence over compromise. Ownership leak proposal details strategically, recognizing broader fan base sympathizes with management given context of substantial compensation improvements already offered. Players perceive this as manipulation, but effectiveness stems from genuine audience reaction to disclosed terms rather than propaganda success. The fundamental miscalculation involves overestimating leverage while underestimating perception vulnerability.
Signing autographs, the fever, and this is why her signing autographs for all the fans, saying time to get back to a lot of this. Like, this sounds like it's a very, very clear stance that she wants this league to she wants there to be games. And it's very, like, you can tell the people when they talk that want there to be games. Aaliyah, absolutely. Stewie, absolutely. Caitlin, absolutely. NECA, we don't know.
Athletes correctly identify their value, creating product quality, but miscalculate.
Caitlin, absolutely. NECA, we don't know. We don't know, because NECA has absolutely gone and she has very much said we want to play. With Fee being out for a while, I don't know how fussed she is. I don't know how fussed she is, to be honest, about playing. She's got Unrivaled. But yeah, it is all around, it is an interesting one to see what way players are.
However, outcomes will ultimately depend less on negotiating room dynamics than public tolerance for disruption of recently discovered entertainment product. That tolerance appears limited and diminishing rather than expanding as rhetoric escalates. Caitlin Clark's recent Instagram activity has sparked considerable discussion regarding her position within the ongoing collective bargaining agreement discussions. The post makes her stance fairly transparent, though the situation doesn't necessarily involve extreme actions like crossing picket lines should labor disputes escalate. Rather, the divide appears generational, with emerging talent generally favoring expedited resolution and immediate return to competition, while established veterans demonstrate considerably less urgency about resuming play. This pattern manifests clearly when examining different player responses.
What way players are looking at this, and it's everyone being like, "Oh, Caitlin Clark, Caitlin Clark is going to agree with the players' union." It's like, man, if the players' union call a strike, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen if they call a strike. Like, I don't think people realize that there are going to be players, and like, there are going to be players if they deem the strike to be caused by the Unrivaled as being a reason for the strike being called.
Younger athletes consistently emphasize their eagerness to secure whatever terms prove achievable and promptly resume competing. Conversely, veterans such as Sydney Colson display minimal pressure to expedite negotiations, not necessarily opposing a return to action but certainly lacking the desperate timeline younger players exhibit. Natasha Cloud similarly communicates through her statements and social media presence that rushing back holds little appeal. The fundamental difference centers on what each group risks through prolonged negotiation stalemates. Younger players possess significantly greater stakes in swift resolution. They've already achieved millionaire status but stand positioned to accumulate substantially greater wealth throughout their careers, making lost seasons particularly costly.
As being a reason for the strike being called that will never play in Unrivaled. Like if they, like that's, I don't know how many, but there will be people. If they deem Unrivaled as kind of wrecked the W, that which won't play in Unrivaled on principle. Like it's not going to help Unrivaled in any way. But yeah, this for me is probably the first time I've been like, okay, she has basically posted saying, not looking forward to it, it's time to get back to this.
This economic reality drives their distinct approach to labor discussions compared to veterans who've already secured their financial futures. Clark's Instagram activity stands in stark contrast to certain other players' social media strategies during negotiations. Several Unrivaled participants removed WNBA references from their biographical information entirely. Numerous athletes deliberately avoid any public statements suggesting desire to compete, carefully ensuring their communications never include phrases like "we want to play" or similar sentiment that might undermine collective bargaining leverage. Some refuse outright to acknowledge any enthusiasm about returning to action. Clark's approach differs dramatically.
It's time to get back to this. Time to get back to this. About her, about basketball in the WNBA. I'm like, that is absolutely I'm not going to say it's a dig, but it could be perceived as one. Going to the PA basically saying, come on, sign the deal. Sign the deal. And I'm looking through it, and that's what a lot of people. I'm not saying everyone is perceived.
Her post featured autograph signing sessions with fans and included messaging about anticipating a return to competition, specifically referencing getting back to basketball activities. The Fever Stars' communication style signals clear preference for league operations to continue and games to proceed as scheduled. This transparency allows observers to distinguish between players genuinely committed to seeing competition resume versus those comfortable with extended standoffs. Several prominent athletes clearly favor immediate return to play. Aaliyah Boston's statements reflect this urgency. Breanna Stewart similarly communicates strong desire for competition to resume.
I'm not saying everyone is perceiving it as that, but there are a lot of people that are taking this post as a shot at the PA saying sign the deal. I don't know nor care. I don't know how true it is. I don't speak for Caitlin Clark. But at the end of the day, it could very much be a case. But even if it's not a direct shot, she's absolutely making it be known.
Clark obviously falls into this category. A'ja Wilson's position remains somewhat ambiguous. Wilson has publicly stated willingness to compete, but with Kelsey Plum sidelined for extended recovery, questions exist about the authenticity of Wilson's urgency given her unrivaled participation providing alternative competition outlet. The dynamics create fascinating speculation about potential rifts should labor disputes intensify. Many assume Clark would automatically align with union positions given her membership, but the situation proves more nuanced. Should the Players Association call for strikes, the response could fragment significantly.